Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this thrilling, chilling, and ever so filling, very special edition of the Burke Brigade. I'm Matthew Burke.
And I'm Jennifer Burke.
And we are the Burke Brigade, brought to you by the Liberty Daily.
Your conservative alternative to the Drudge Report.
Go to thelibertydaily.com, thelibertydaily.com, your conservative news aggregator, taking on the cultural Marxists, the communists, the God haters, the media, the leftists, the Democrats, and the establishment RINO squishes in the Republican Party. And anyone else who hates the country. But I digress. Okay, on this very special edition, you know why it's special?
Why is it special, honey?
Because I'm with you, dear.
Aww. Sweet talker.
Right? Okay, so there's so many crazy stories today that happened. Former DNC Democrat, I hate to say Democratic because there's nothing.
Yes, nothing Democratic.
Democrat National Committee interim chair, Donna Brazile, and as you'll recall, she took over after Debbie Blabbermouth Schultz was ousted.
After it was revealed that she was hijacking the election in favor of Hillary and sticking it to Bolshevik burn.
Right. He felt the burn. Well, today...
And let me add this. And around that same time, it came out that Donna Brazile herself was feeding questions from CNN debates to Hillary Clinton before the debate happened.
So she was, in essence, rigging the election in her own little way. But she's got a book coming out, so it's time to make some money off the corruption.
Cha-ching.
Yeah. And she wrote an excerpt of her book today in Politico, and it admits, or she's telling this story here. Here, let me just read a little excerpt here. I had promised Bernie when I took the helm of the Democratic National Committee after the convention that I would get to the bottom of whether Hillary's team had rigged the nomination process, as a cache of emails stolen by Russian hackers and posted online had suggested, Brazile wrote in a piece for Politico, which is a left-wing site. By September 7th, the day I called Bernie, I had found my proof, and it broke my heart.
Oh, poor baby!
Just crocodile tears. I'm sure. And, just a little history. She is a longtime Democrat operative. I think she even ran Al Gore's campaign. A Clintonista in her own right. And the proof that she found, the so-called proof, was a joint fundraising agreement, a document between the DNC and a couple of Hillary front groups, the Hillary Victory Fund and Hillary for America. And it had been signed in August of 2015, 4 months after Clinton announced her candidacy, and a year before she officially secured the nomination over Hillary Clinton.
Sounds like collusion to me.
Yeah, that's a good point, collusion. The agreement, signed by Amy Dacey, the former CEO of the DNC, and Robbie Mook, with a copy to Mark Elias, specified that in exchange for raising money and investing in the DNC, Hillary would control, listen to this, are you ready?
I'm ready.
She'd control the party's finances, strategy, and all the money raised.
Wow.
This is like an elaborate kickback scheme.
Yep.
Her campaign had the right of refusal of who would be the party communications director, and it would make final decisions on all the other staff. So she got to fill the DNC with her minions and stooges. Collusion!
You know what? I'm checking out of curiosity. I'm checking CNN's site to see if, there's a story with Donna Brazile's name on it on the front page.
They had to cover this, but...
I did a search for Brazil. I don't see anything.
The thing is, though, I was checking out CNN off and on all day. I didn't personally see them cover the story. I'm sure they had to at some point.
They probably
but the
did
difference is they won't obsess over it.
No, they won't obsess. Wolf Blitzer will spend 10 seconds talking about it, so Don Lemon can then say, we covered it. We
covered it. But I thought it was funny, and I wrote about this today. Matt Walsh, who is like the king of moral clarity,
right?
At least among human beings that I've seen on this earth, he tweeted at Matt Walsh blog, Donna Brazile knew the DNC was corrupt and rigged, yet she fed debate questions to Hillary. She's no hero.
No, she's not.
A fraud like the rest of them. And that's exactly right. She didn't come forward after she knew this information and make it public, right?
No, she didn't. She didn't. She was waiting for,
the time to write a book and make money on it.
her book deal, so she could make some coin.
Right. So, Donna Brazile, consider yourself kicked off your moral perch. You are not a hero.
You are fake news.
Well, she's real news. She's just delayed news.
No, I mean, as far as the trying to act like she's morally superior to Hillary Clinton.
Right. So now you have a cultural Marxism update for us. Don't you, my dear?
I do. You know what? This is just, we know. You've said for years, honey, how a lot of these magazines and stuff, they're just cultural Marxists. They spent years focusing on what they supposedly were going to focus on, like Cosmopolitan, beauty and fashion, GQ, fashion for men. Then Cosmopolitan started getting really, really just on the edge with their sexual articles and stuff. But this one takes the cake. Cosmopolitan pushes incest.
They're trying to normalize it.
This is what it's like to fall in love with your brother. And they tell this story about this brother and sister who met, didn't know about each other for 40 years, but after they met, after one drink, they slept together twice. He's since left his wife. She has an open arrangement marriage with her husband. So she's still
to sleep with her brother?
Yes. So she's still with her husband for now, but they're planning for the day when they can themselves get married and move in together. So I guess her husband will just, be her sloppy seconds, for a while when she's really going and getting on with her brother. And what's the Daily Wire has this story. And one of the things they say is, basically Cosmo's only moral objection to the depraved behavior is that they said that it's bad for passing on genes. Hooking
that's
up
with
your sibling. It's their only problem. It's bad for passing on genes.
Yeah, but that's not a problem for them. If he gets her pregnant, they'll just kill it.
Right. Inbreeding dramatically increases the likelihood that the offspring will have severe abnormalities. But that's okay because the left, wants it'll just be another baby to kill, more money for Planned Parenthood to make, and donate to their fellow perverted Democrats at the Democrat Party. Cosmopolitan, Vogue, GQ, Planned Parenthood, all these people are in bed with the Democrat Party.
Right. And, they're not the only ones. I think we should call this a slippery slope update. Remember all this talk about, love wins?
Right.
Love wins. Love is love. And, what does it hurt you if we allow, two women or two men if we just completely change the meaning of marriage? What is it different? And you'll notice they're not stopping there. This is a slippery slope that conservatives and Christians and anybody with any moral fiber that wants a civil society where people aren't running around naked like animals has warned about. This is a slippery slope. So now, all these other perversions have been normalized. They're not going to stop there. Now they're going into pedophilia. CNN, there's an opinion piece on CNN, December 16th, 2013. It's time to reconsider polygamy. And it was either today or yesterday, Chris Cuomo interviewed some polygamists, and it was a complete, you know how he's normally, like, if you'll have a Republican or a conservative on there, he'll be a complete rabid pit bull.
Right.
Total softball interview. He had absolutely no problem with it. And today or yesterday, I guess it was, or the day before, we learned that Kevin Spacey is a pedophile.
Right.
And now he's being accused of trying to rape a 15-year-old.
Right, and also accused of...
That's in addition to the 14-year-old.
Right, and accused of assault on the set of House of Cards.
Right.
And in addition to this, you saying all that reminded me of a post I saw from a Facebook friend of mine. Now, I'm not sure, I'm guessing this picture was taken at Columbia, but you have these people, these anarchists, who are dressed in black, most of them with their faces covered, and they're holding this sign, and one of the things I can make out from it is NAMBLA.
Oh, yeah.
Is a sponsor of this sign. Resist New York. And the big banner they're carrying says, you ready for this?
What's NAMBLA stand for again?
National Association of Man-Boy Love.
Association?
Something. Yeah.
Good
something.
God.
You know, the whole pedophilia is okay, which explains the sign. Their sign says...
That's where they're going.
No white supremacy, no pedo bashing, no Mike Cernovich.
Yeah, so now the pedophiles are going to be a protected class by the Democrat Party, and they'll require that they be named minority status, and there'll be another little sliver of the perverts in the country that they can align with to get their votes and get their campaign contributions. Absolutely sick freaks. And, you know, that's the goal of the cultural Marxists. They can't win their arguments politically, so they just ruin the culture.
Yep.
That is their goal. So the RINOs today, I know everybody, you know, all the Republicans are all excited about tax reform, but let me tell you something here. This is not a conservative bill. Paul Ryan announced it today. It's RINO reform, and the things I don't like about it. Number one, it still has a highly, steeply progressive income tax structure. So instead of a flat tax or a fair tax, they are having the tax brackets be 0, 12%, 25%, and 35%. So very, very steep. Again, they're punishing success.
Right.
You know, if you work 2 jobs, you're going to get your tax bracket raised significantly. If you went from, 12% to 35% because you worked harder, or you took another job or 2, or you work 7 days a week, you're going to get hammered. Your tax rate's going to triple.
Right. And I remember I've told you this before, hon. Growing up in the 70s, I was young. I didn't know anything about politics, but reflecting back on things I would hear my dad, God rest his soul, say, it was the Carter years versus the Reagan years. My dad worked at a refinery. There were 6 kids in my family, so we were a family of 8. He worked overtime a lot, to support the family, sometimes in dangerous, conditions back then. But I remember my dad saying when he would get a paycheck, he'd say, the more you make, the more they take.
Yep.
There he was working triple overtime sometimes. I remember we had an anniversary party for my parents, and it was a surprise. And my dad had agreed to go to go in on his off day, so he was able to stay for an hour or 2. Then he had to leave. And then right around my preteen years, I remember things getting a little bit better. because that was when Reagan, started lowering the tax rate. Now, liberals like to say the tax rate was higher under Reagan. It was 78%. Yeah, because when he got in office because of Jimmy Carter, and then he slashed it, and life got better. So yeah, the more you make, the more they take. I guess the Republicans want to continue the legacy of Jimmy Carter, sticking it to the hardworking guy who's just trying to make ends meet for his family. I mean, what does that tell someone? Only go so far.
And then that's right.
Only make so much. Only work so much, because the government really sees you as their slave, and they'll just have you working for them.
Right.
No different than the Democrat message.
Nope. And of course, to keep Chuck and Nancy happy, they've got the 39.6% bracket for the upper echelon if you make over $1 million a year. So they bought into the Marxist claptrap to punish success. That somehow, if you punish people, if you punish the achievers in society, somehow that's going to help people on the lower rungs. I'm not sure how that is.
Did they do anything with the death tax?
Yeah, there's some good things. There's a handful of good things in there.
And the business tax.
Yeah. We're gonna get to that. The corporate tax, they've got lowering, and it's got to go through the Senate and a bunch of other stuff. So this is not final. It's going to be reworked. But they don't ever start out with the perfect. Well, don't let the POS be the enemy of the good. Why don't you start out with perfection?
Right. Yeah.
And then if you have to negotiate from there,
give yourself a starting point of negotiation. If it were the left, they'd say highest tax bracket 50%, and then Nancy Pelosi would be calling
90,
and Nancy Pelosi would be calling her tax attorney to see if her money is still located in the offshore places that she's hiding it. Because these Democrats do. There's no way, they see life as different for them, rules as different for them and other people. And I find it hard to believe that they, especially from a group of people who wanted to exempt themselves from Obamacare, that they wouldn't somehow, some way be trying to protect their money.
They always write little loopholes in there. And then...
Oh, and let me remind you, I have to say this. Nancy Pelosi, she and her husband, they were the ones who refused to pay a football team from a failed football league. Remember that?
Yeah.
They owed coaches and players and refused to pay because she's for the little guy.
Yeah, she's for the little guy. Okay, the other thing it does is it significantly increases the standard deduction. Now, everybody would say, well, isn't that just wonderful? So standard deduction goes from $6,350 to $12,000 for individuals, $12,700 to $24,000. And so, in essence, what it's going to do with the change in tax rates, it's going to take millions of more people off the tax rolls that have no skin in the game whatsoever. So it's going to continue to punish success and reward failure and sloth. And
isn't sloth one of the 7 deadly sins?
Yes, it is. And this is the thing. This is no different than what you would get, maybe slightly better. You wouldn't get the corporate tax cut, I'll be honest. But a lot of this is just what you would get from a Democrat.
Yep.
And it's because Trump has got like this Steve Mnuchin and his chief economic policy advisor, Gary Cohn, who, by the way, said today or yesterday to Bloomberg, I believe it was, that he's still a Democrat. So he
has Democrats running things behind the scenes.
And then you have, these rhinos that are making the decisions on this kind of stuff.
Right.
Is it better than the current taxes situation? Yeah, it's a little bit better. But the Republicans are in power. They could make it a lot better.
Right, they could make it a lot better.
They could eliminate the IRS.
Yep, they could. They could institute the
they could do the fair tax or a flat, simple
file your taxes on a postcard.
Oh, they're saying you could do it on a postcard with this too. Please. But yet it's a 450-page bill. So it's garbage, is what it is. It's garbage with a little perfume sprinkled on it. Granted, the tax code is so bad that anything to improve it, I'm for.
But like you said, give yourself a negotiating point. The Democrats always start out asking for
the moon,
and then they
settle for half the moon, or 3/4 of the moon.
Yep.
And then they go back and get the other quarter. Republicans are stupid. They're stupid human beings. They're weak. They have no principles, and they care too much about what people think about them. They're continue with this abused wife syndrome, battered wife syndrome, where they think if they, it's almost like the Democrats with ISIS and radical Islamic terrorists. They think if they kiss their ass, they'll somehow be the last one slaughtered.
Right.
And it's stupid. It's absolutely disgraceful. And the problem is the voters. The voters are stupid too. We're all stupid. And we continue to vote for stupid people.
Tell us how you really feel, babe.
No, I mean, you have to vote for conservatives.
Right.
You can't just put in these damn people that have a R next to their name.
And this is what people do. You notice people who are listening, you notice there are many, many people many Republicans who sound like they're the most conservative, constitutional person in the world when they're coming up for re-election. That's what they sound like. But they're not, unlike Ted Cruz and Mike Lee and some others, they don't have a record to back it.
Right.
Which is why I'm actually surprised they don't attack Conservative Review more for their Liberty scores. Because they have an actual breakdown. Remember, people like John McCain would say, well, I vote, when he would be accused of voting with the Democrats and being too liberal. Well, I vote with the party 90-something% of the time. Yeah, for issues that have nothing to do with anybody's lives or freedom or the Constitution or anything, things like naming post offices. But the Conservative Review Liberty Score breaks it down. When it comes to this issue, how do you vote? When it comes to this issue, how do you vote?
And it stacks the deck with the most recent votes having the highest.
Because a lot of these people
impact.
look at Jeff Flake.
When he was in Congress, 10 years ago, he was more conservative.
He was more conservative, and then he became a senator and just flipped.
Rubbed elbows with John McCain. The other thing on this, you asked about the death tax. It repeals it after 6 years. So in 6 years, we'll have a whole new Congress. We'll have.
Oh my gosh.
That's 3 times the House. That's the House of Representatives. Possibly turning over.
Why wait 6 years?
Because they do this on the.
They want to act like they're doing something.
Right.
They want to dupe the vote. This is how stupid they think you are, people.
Right.
This is how stupid they think you are. So Paul Ryan could go around and say, we repealed the death tax, and not mention that it's going to take place in 6 years.
And they got this earned income tax credit, which is just social, more liberal social reengineering. Here's how it works. Not only do you not pay any taxes, but you get a refund on taxes that you didn't pay.
How? Then it's not a refund. It's welfare.
Right. It's another welfare program, but they don't call it that. They call it the, this is the most Orwellian thing. Earned income tax credit.
How is it earned?
You didn't earn enough income to pay taxes, but somehow you earned a credit by not earning enough money to pay taxes. Up is down, left is right.
And they'll continue to go around and say, people need to pay their fair share.
Pay their
fair share.
You got like 41% of the public, I believe this is the correct number, right around there, I may be off a point or two, that pay zero income tax. So they have no skin in the game.
But they'll vote.
They'll vote to raise other people's taxes.
Yep.
And Republicans just play along with this, just dumb as, like a dog returning to its vomit, just dumb as a post, and play along. And it's because they're Democrats. Let's just face it. John McCain is a Democrat.
He's a Democrat.
He votes like a Democrat.
His good friend Hillary Clinton, who he would have been proud to serve as vice president under. Remember that whole story?
Yeah, and look at these Liberty, like you were talking about, the Conservative Review Liberty scores. You got Lisa Murkowski like 20%. Or something like that. That's out of 100 folks. 20%. That's when you don't even turn in your homework in school. You say your dog ate it.
Right?
20%. She
is
a Democrat.
That's how little Lisa Murkowski cares about your freedom and your livelihood, people.
Right. Now, one thing it does do, it lowers the tax rate to 20%. Why didn't they go to 15? That's what Trump campaigned on. Maybe you have to come back to 20. But now they're starting at 20, so you know it won't end up at 20. I doubt very seriously it will. Once it goes to the Senate, which is even more liberal.
Yep.
I mean, this is the House of Representatives.
Who wrote this?
Got more. Paul Ryan, House leadership. You know, I'm sure he had input from all of his establishment RINO cronies and his bosses at the
House Freedom Caucus
Chamber of Crony Capitalism. So just so disappointing. I mean, why even vote for Republicans if they're not going to act like Republicans? Okay, you've got an interesting story here from the racism on the left.
This is just so absolutely ridiculous. Granted, this didn't happen in this country, but it could have. It's something that could have exactly happened in this country.
Totally.
So this woman, this Colombian-Canadian singer, Alito Pimienta, was singing in Nova Scotia. Okay, and for those of our listening audience, I am a black conservative woman. I just want to say that before I go any further in this article and say things about it. Anyway. So, you know, I guess in going with the segregation, now segregation is cool, I guess, because you even have black students wanting to segregate themselves, wanting their own student union to hang out in, wanting their own dormitories, wanting spaces they can go to on college campuses to be away from whites. You know, that the dream of Martin Luther King is officially
basically urinating on his grave.
It's basically dead. So this woman, while she was singing in Nova Scotia, asked the people of color to move to the front and told white people to go to the back of the room.
I would tell her to go to hell.
Apparently, you know, she's not had a problem, you know, with this because she's done this before. But some white people who were there refused to act in accordance with her request.
Oh, imagine that.
Imagine that.
I'd like to see her try to
including a
move
white
me.
female volunteer who was reportedly there to photograph the show. So, they claimed that several white members of the audience reacted with aggressive and overt racism, which we know the left just overinflates reality when it comes to pushing their
race card because
reality.
they will not survive without racism.
After she requested brown girls to the front, so in the end, Pimienta just kept saying, "Move to the back." Saying it 10 times. The woman refused to move. And the singer said, "You're cutting into my set time and you're disrespecting these women and I don't have time for this." So event organizers removed the white female photographer from the event and said she is no longer affiliated with the festival. So she was photographing for the festival. And then the board of directors of the Halifax Pop Explosion issued a statement. I don't know if I'll read all of this. We'll see. Condemning the white female volunteer who was volunteering her time for this festival. "We will not accept this behavior, and neither should you. Be responsible for your friends. Talk to them and support them as they move towards unpacking their racism. People of color deserve safe spaces, and it is your responsibility to help. It is also ours. To Alito Pimienta, we are sorry that one of our volunteers interrupted your art, your show, and your audience by being aggressive and racist. We have so much respect for the art and music you create and the space you make for women, people of color, transgender, and non-binary people, whatever the beep that is. The way you interact with the world acts and provides a thoughtful example. You are a role model."
So now suddenly by the progressive left, it's okay to tell people to get to the back of the bus based on their skin color.
Yes.
As long as it's a certain one.
As long as they're
I thought we were supposed to be past that.
And you're supposed to comply. You're just supposed to. If they say get to the back of the bus, you comply. Otherwise, you're the racist.
I'd like to see somebody try and make me. Really, I would.
Right?
That would not go well. Okay, stay tuned. We have pretty quick here coming up towards the end of the show. We have a Las Vegas update. Las Vegas update because it's been way too long. I mean, look at this New York Islamic terrorist. We immediately knew the motive because, of course, he gave it away when he shouted Allahu Akbar.
Right.
But, of course, the media is still looking for a
right.
motive.
And wanted to hang an ISIS flag in his hospital room.
Right. Unreal. And said he was happy.
I'm surprised
very satisfied and happy with what he did.
I'm surprised New York didn't allow him to.
Oh, yeah. De Blasio would probably hang it for him. As long as he can put up a hammer and sickle, too. Oh, my God. The world's upside down. So we're going to have that Las Vegas update for you. That's our little tease to encourage you to hang in.
Stay tuned, folks.
Don't you hate it when people do that? I'm going to do it anyway.
At least you did it late, not like every 5 minutes. Oh, and stay
and that's
tuned.
The first of the
stay
show.
tuned.
See,
and you told them when it's going to happen.
Yeah,
so
it's going to be. So
anticipation is what you're generating.
Maybe 5-10 minutes. Probably 10. Maybe slightly longer. Okay, so we're on to what is the biggest political scandal in American history.
And it ain't Trump-Russia collusion, folks.
It's Hillary-Russia collusion, also known as Uranium One, the Uranium One scandal. So the breaking news is here, and this is tonight from John Solomon, who has been knocking this stuff out of the park. Oh, shut up. I hate those darn things. From the Hill. And you know how, honey, Democrats and the media have shifted their stuff on uranium. First, they denied that Hillary approved the sale of 20% of the nation's uranium supply to a Putin-controlled company.
Right.
Russia. So, while she was Secretary of State. And then they were proven to be liars on that. And, for pretty much a year now, we've been told that, the Russians are so evil that if anybody in the Trump campaign even talked to somebody from Russia, even innocently, even unknowingly, it's treason.
Right. Goodness. Some Democrats were saying, Trump has a hotel there. Right.
And, Don Jr. talked to that freakish Russian attorney who, it's treason. But selling 20%
right.
of the material to make nuclear bombs with
right.
to this same enemy
right.
that's supposed to be Satan incarnate, that is perfectly fine.
Right. Remember the Democrat argument? They might not have done something, but the fact that Trump Jr. met him showed a willingness to
commit collusion.
But, look the other way. Squirrel, look the other way when it comes to Hillary and Uranium One.
$145 million going to the Clinton Crime Family Foundation in exchange for the approval of Putin getting his grubby little hands on 20% of America's uranium. That is not a problem for them.
Lock her up. Lock her up.
The argument that they tried to make, that they were trying to spin here recently is, well, it doesn't matter anyway because that company has no export agreement. So he's just going to be slushing it around here, the uranium in the United States. It can't go to any foreign countries. So just look the other way. Forgetting that, she still got bought off.
Right. As did her husband with his
double speaking fields, $500,000. What your average American family makes in about a decade. Bill made in 1 hour speaking to Russians. I'm sure that was an important speech. I'm sure they were just dying to hear what he had to say.
Right. I have a friend.
But there's news. Go ahead.
No. When we start talking about that story, just before starting the show, I was perusing Facebook and I saw a post from a friend of mine from high school. It's not overly political, but this is so true. They know enough. This is so true. They said, golly gee whiz, who knew the Clintons were so golly gosh darn corrupt? I declare it's just shocking. Shocking!
Yeah, shocking they had rigged the election. But Solomon is reporting here in the Hill that actually, through this sleazy deal and through these back doors, they actually have been sending uranium to foreign countries.
Are they going to blame that on Trump?
Yeah, of course. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission assured Congress and the public that the new owners couldn't export any of the raw nuclear fuel from America's shores. Quote, no uranium produced at either facility may be exported, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission declared in a November 2010 press release that announced that the ARMZ, a subsidiary of the Russian state-owned Rosatom, has been approved to take ownership of the Uranium One mining firm and its formerly American assets. There's more here, but these memos obtained by the Hill, John Solomon, show that it did approve the shipment of yellow cake uranium, the raw material used to make nuclear fuel and weapons, from the Russian-owned mines in the United States to Canada in 2012 through a third party. Laundering.
And yes, and the left would say, well, it didn't go to Russia. It went to Canada.
And then guess where it went?
And then it went to Russia after that.
Later, the Obama administration approved some of that uranium going all the way to Europe government. So, and then from there, where did it go? Who the hell knows? And so they don't know where it went. They lied and said, well, they have no export licenses. They're caught here in writing. This isn't speculation.
Right. This isn't a Fox News report.
No, it's
CNN.
the Hill. And so it's so bad that we even had tonight on Hannity lifelong Democrat operative Doug Schoen. Clintonista said that there needs to be a special prosecutor to investigate Hillary Clinton on this Uranium One deal. That's how dirty it was. And he was all for, he's a Democrat.
Right.
He was all for investigating Trump Russia.
Right.
But he's like, let's get, if there's nothing there in that, and investigate Hillary Clinton. But
not with our buddy Robert Mueller.
You got to have somebody investigate Robert Mueller and James Comey.
Right. I say Ted Cruz should lead the investigation.
Yeah, that would be. I don't know. The thing is, these investigations, when it's the Clintons,
she'll go and laugh, and then she'll be, remember
act
the whole
stupid.
Benghazi?
I don't recall.
You mean like with a cloth?
Wipe it with a cloth?
Yeah, remember the whole Benghazi hearings? Clinton was made out to be this big hero. She sat through 18 hours of testimony like a champ.
Good gosh. All right, well, the World Series is over, and I've been watching. I did take several years off here. I kind of got out of baseball, but I was a lifelong fan until about 2011-ish, maybe. Somewhere around there. But I'm back. I'm a Major League Baseball fan again, and this World Series has wrote me in.
And I'm from Houston, and
Jennifer's
I'm so
very
super happy.
And the best World Series I've ever seen in my life was 1975, my former favorite team growing up as a little boy, the Big Red Machine with Johnny Bench and Pete Rose and Joe Morgan and Dave Concepcion and Dave Dreesen and Cesar Geronimo, excuse me, and Ken Griffey Sr. And George Foster. I think I just read off the whole starting nine. Against the Boston Red Sox, that had guys like Carl Yastrzemski and oh my God, now I'm having a brain fart. Carlton Fisk, the great catcher, and that was a great team too. And memory serves me correctly, the Reds won it in either 6 or 7 games. But that was generally considered, one of the best, if not the best, World Series of all time. This one was better, I think. And that 13-12 game, was that game 6?
Insanity. That was
one for the ages. 5 or 6.
5 or 6. Yeah, that was absolutely amazing. And growing up in Houston, because I grew up in Houston, I was talking to a friend earlier today that didn't follow baseball that much, and she was asking, what other teams have never won? I couldn't name them, and I said, but growing up in Houston, I said I did say the Mariners. I said we had some amazing players like the legendary Nolan Ryan.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, even during the Bagwell Biggio years, during the Cesar Cedeno, Billy White, the Cesar Cedeno years, it was like there were times that you thought they would make it because the team was good. We made it in 2005. Was it 2005?
I don't know.
But it was 2005. But we didn't win.
Yeah.
We were swept, but it was a hard fought sweep. I mean, there were
Wasn't
games
like
that lasted.
every game was like one run.
Yeah, and there were games that lasted 14, 15 innings.
Right.
So to watch this team play, I mean, their chemistry, their determination. You could just see it in their eyes when they would step up to the bat. Yeah, the hitters, the catches, just absolutely amazing. And I wish I could be in Houston for the parade tomorrow.
Right. Yeah, so that's really cool. And coming off, the historic flood and everything, it's neat. So a lot of good there, not to digress into sports, but it is related to politics because they stuck it to the NFL from having the flag go everywhere to having every single player not only standing for the flag and the national anthem, but standing with their right hand holding their baseball cap over their heart.
Right.
Every single one.
Every single
it's like,
time.
I don't know if every single one of these players are just, patriotic Americans or they were given their marching orders.
Right. And you heard about that one.
They stuck it to the NFL.
The entire baseball season, you only heard about one idiot who kneeled down during the national anthem. And he didn't have, these, I don't know if he thought he was going to start some wave. I have no idea. It didn't happen. The guy ended up getting arrested in Scottsdale during the World Series, actually, for brandishing a gun and threatening a female delivery driver.
Yeah. Holding a gun on a woman.
Yeah.
The only flag sitter in Major League Baseball. But you didn't see that. And who did they have sing the national anthem on Game 7? I mean, this is really sticking it to the NFL.
Yeah, they had 4 police officers. From the LA, Los Angeles. They're the, what do they call it? 4 singers. Anyway, they're a singing group.
Yeah.
And it was a black woman, and I think an Hispanic woman, and a Hispanic guy,
and
a
it
white
looked
guy
like the rainbow.
Singing together. And in Houston, they had
military
guys in the military and a woman in the military singing the national anthem.
So in the NFL, you have people disrespecting police.
In the NBA, you have these social justice warrior singers kneeling down during the national anthem.
You have Colin Kaepernick wearing, socks depicting police officers as pigs, and then you have people kneeling to protest police officers. And here in Major League Baseball, they're having police officers sing the national anthem in Game 7. So there's a little bit of difference there. And all this stuff with the NFL, it just soured me. I just don't care that much.
Right. I have a feeling
the last Monday Night Baseball, Thursday Night Baseball, I just forgot about it. Football.
Yeah, baseball.
Yeah, I just didn't even turn it on. I
have a feeling that the Major League Baseball is going to have a lot of new fans or returning fans.
Well, because
remember for years people talked about how football had surpassed baseball as like America's sport. No, not anymore.
Yeah, it's
baseball
changing.
Showed why they were known as like the sport of America.
There was a poll recently that showed the NFL, after all of this, is now the least popular major sport in America. So their favorability has gone down. And you have a NFL story that I think is pretty telling and pretty poignant.
Yeah, it's pretty telling. It's funny. The NFL is trying to make up for their just insults and dissing of the military, the police. I mean, think about it. I was telling Matthew this before this show started. In Houston, after Hurricane Harvey and the massive floods it unleashed on the city, the Houston Astros, ever since that day, have worn a patch on their jerseys to indicate Houston strong. After the killing of 5 police officers in Dallas, when the Dallas Cowboys wanted to wear a patch, to honor those police officers during this season. The commissioner said, no, you can't.
No.
Sorry, you can't do it. So that's just a difference in mindset.
Colin Kaepernick, you can wear cops as pigs.
Right.
That's great.
Right. So
we support that, Colin. Go for it.
The NFL wanted to honor a retired U.S. Navy officer with a special award at Sunday's New Orleans Saints game. This guy, Commander John Wells, was supposed to receive the People's Health Champion Award. He responded to the offer letter to executives in the Saints organization and People's Health. It's given to people with significant achievements in the community. But Commander Wells wanted absolutely nothing to do with it. He said, I'm unable in good conscience to enter an NFL stadium while this discourtesy prevails. He continued while talking to WDSU TV. I had hoped and prayed that the NFL would outlaw these disgraceful protests and wanted to give the commissioner and the owners a fair opportunity to do so. Their failure to act is a slap in the face to all those who have served in uniform. Men and women have fought and died for the flag, and the players are disrespecting. So, some people want to say, oh, it's their First Amendment right. No, it's not. The NFL is a privately owned business. They can, the NBA commissioner let it be known to players that that they are contractually obligated. It is part of their bylaws that they will stand for the national anthem, so that there would be none of that. Whether some people have challenged them on it, I don't know. But remember, it was the Saints in late September actually knelt down in solidarity prior to the national anthem and then stood together during the anthem. And I think, wasn't it the Saints also, honey, that there was a police officer that was being honored and they didn't go out on the field, or they knelt down during the honoring of this police officer? I believe that was the Saints too.
Yeah, may have been. I don't know.
Yeah, but your actions have consequences. The Saints have lost sponsorships from a few companies who were disappointed in their social justice warrior antics. And good for this Commander Wells.
And Papa John's is pulling their sponsorship from the NFL, a huge sponsor. They recently had a significant decrease in sales and earnings, which caused their stock price to go down. And in their official earnings statement, they blamed the NFL flag setters.
Right, because we know Papa John's, Peyton Manning, because Peyton Manning owns a bunch of Papa John's franchises in Denver, I believe. And they ran commercials a lot, throughout all the NFL games. And maybe he'll start sponsoring the Major League Baseball instead.
That would be great. That would be a good decision. Okay. PJ Media, pjmedia.com has an excellent story. I'm not going to read all of it. It's by J. Christian Adams, and it's safe. I don't know if I'm saying this right. Basically, the name of whatever the guy's name is, the New York Islamic terrorist, is the winner of Chuck's Diversity Lottery. And I wrote about this. Chuck Schumer is the creator of this diversity visa lottery program that brought this Islamic terrorist to America. It was created by Chuck Schumer. They're trying to spin it in all kinds of different ways. You're having establishment rhinos like Jeff Flake come to schemers.
Chucky's defense.
Yeah, his defense. But as J. Christian Adams writes about in PJ Media, Schumer and Flake were simply proposing, this is what the Gang of Eight, the amnesty thing they tried to get through, I believe it was in 2013. Schumer and Flake were simply proposing an immigration free-for-all that would make Chuck's lottery obsolete. The Gang of Eight bill would have done overnight what the diversity visa lottery couldn't do in a lifetime. So they were trying to make it even
easier.
Worse.
And I read somewhere that Uzbekistan, is that what it's called, is a hotbed breeding of terrorism for ISIS. So why the hell are we letting anyone from Uzbekistan in here?
Because of the false pagan god of political correctness that must have sacrifices in the form of American lives to make progressives happy. He writes here, Chuck's diversity lottery is impossible to defend. It is a random drawing with almost no criteria to win besides sheer luck.
What?
So check that out. Okay, we promised you a Las Vegas update, and we're going to give you a Las Vegas update because, as we were saying earlier, it's just amazing that within hours we knew the exact motive of the Islamic terrorist. Of course, he gave it away shouting Allahu Akbar.
And all the notes they found in the truck and
his
stuff on his phone.
Note of allegiance, pledge of allegiance to ISIS, Obama's JV team. But now, it's been, over a month?
Gosh.
And we still don't know anything. We don't know a damn thing about this guy.
We don't even know what we know because the story keeps changing.
It's just very odd. And how they didn't have his house staked out and it was broken into.
What?
Yeah. You didn't know that?
I must have missed that.
Yeah, the guy's house was broken into. You know how his hard drive on his computer is missing? There's just all kinds of weird thing. And of course...
And the security guard with the story that changed, he was shot 6 minutes before, no, he wasn't, is being holed up by MGM Grand for that's the last I saw.
Yeah, it's just weird. And they're not letting him speak to anybody except Ellen, who has ties with MGM. It's just all very fishy. And of course, I am the least of the conspiracy theorists, but it makes you turn into one when you get no real answers. Because you start thinking about what the hell's going on.
Right. Or when, you're told one thing one day and the next day the story drastically changes.
Right.
And in official press conferences, not hearsay through, on Twitter or something, official press conferences.
So this is tonight, and this is why you tune in to the BURKE Brigade. Brought to you by the Liberty Daily.
Your conservative alternative to the Drudge Report.
TheLibertyDaily.com. Las Vegas police believe, this is via the New York Post, Las Vegas police believe Stephen Paddock's girlfriend may be hiding something.
You think?
You think? Let me ask you a question. What was your first clue? I mean, to think that she didn't know something about what may be going on through his head.
Well, especially since she was in the Philippines and he was wiring
$100,000
to her. And I believe, I'm looking this up just so I don't...
While you're doing that, let me read this here. Speaking to a local television station on Wednesday, Clark County Sheriff Joe Lombardo described how cops were suspicious of Mary Lou Danley and her claims that she knew nothing about Paddock's murderous plans to shoot up the Route 91 Harvest Music Festival. Quote, there is a lot of people that have hundreds and hundreds of guns, but for this individual to do it at a certain point in time and to do it at all with such robust action, you would think that Ms. Danley would have some information associated with that, Lombardo told KLAS in a lengthy 2-hour interview. But currently, we haven't been able to pull that out of her if it's in her. Well, maybe you need to use some different tactics.
Yeah, and it's
maybe you need to charge her with being a compliance.
Right.
Accomplice.
An accomplice.
I got my word.
ISIS has targeted the Philippines as a recruitment center. In fact, here's an article from the Daily Mail from 2015, a video ISIS released showing their jihadi training camp in the Philippines. It is another hotbed of terrorism recruitment, and she was in the Philippines getting $100,000 wired to her. That man did not plan that attack himself, and he had to have help getting it all set up. It was way too elaborate.
Now,
we have no proof, but it was just way too elaborate.
Weird. Just
way too elaborate.
How did he smuggle all those guns in there?
How did he choose that one room? How did he get cameras hanging inside and outside of the room without drawing suspicion?
Well, and how did the security cameras on that floor not work? So there's just a lot of questions, and unfortunately, the authorities are not providing any answers.
No.
So
they haven't really said much since the whole discrepancy of the 6 minutes.
Yeah, it reeks of a cover-up. I'm sorry, it just does. Because they're not... I mean, I don't see how rummaging through all this guy's thing. And how did they allow the hard drive to get stolen?
Yeah, how is it they were that supposedly that night they were searching for they searched his house, and they supposedly were going to search another house. I think there was a third location. How were they left unattended? It reminds me of Benghazi. When that was left just there out in the open just to be ransacked.
So are you saying maybe he saw a YouTube video? Okay, we are going to wrap things up here. We appreciate you tuning in to another thrilling, chilling, and ever so fulfilling special edition, very special, of the Burke Brigade.
Special!
Very. Brought to you by the Liberty Daily.
Your conservative alternative to the Drudge Report.
Go to thelibertydaily.com, thelibertydaily.com. The benefit to you will be an informed, locked and loaded American badass patriot. And the more often you go, the bigger of a badass you will be.
Right.
It's just the way it works.
It's just the way it is.
Just the way it is.
Before you end it, I just have to say one thing.
Oh, two if you want.
Houston Astros earned history. 2017 World Series champions. Woohoo!
Yes. Hashtag boycott NFL. All right. God bless you guys.
God bless you and God bless America.